Hello everyone. So we are here again for the Sunday Sutta readings. It's such a lovely day. I wanted to do this outside, but the laptop's got a mind of its own. So we had some technical difficulties, but so we'll do it inside. And start with a homage to the Lord Buddha. Namo Dassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Dassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Dassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. So we were going through the third sutta of the Majjima Nikaya, being Dhammadāyāda Sutta, meaning heirs to the Dhamma, heirs in the Dhamma. And we went through the first three stanzas last week, and which was concerned with what it means to be an heir of the Dhamma, what is most important for us in the Buddha's dispensation. It is his teaching and not the material things that we get, because there are so many material things involved nowadays, well, always was. And not to get too caught up in these material things, such as these big nice temples and monuments and all the shiny things that we see everywhere in the Buddhist world, in the in temples and stuff. But it's not saying that we should destroy them or anything. It's just that know what is important. It is the Dhamma. It is to not cling to these things and walk the path of simplicity and contentment that the Buddha preached. So in that regard, last week we stopped off with the simile of the two bhikkhus who, after a long journey, hungry and parched, is offered with some leftovers after in the afternoon, and one bhikkhu chooses to eat it and one bhikkhu does not. And the Lord Buddha, while he does not admonish the bhikkhu who does eat it, says that he would praise and he would commend the bhikkhu who does not, even though he may be hungry and feeling weak. And that may sound like a little bit torturous and hard, but when you look deeper, actually it makes so much sense, because according to the Buddhist way of looking at things, the saying, you are what you eat. And we say that too. There are four nutriments for life. One is food, kabalinkara aharo. That's the food that we eat, and so you are what you eat. But also there is mano sanchetanika ahara, which is mental intentions, the food, the nutriment of mental intentions. And then there is the vinyanang ahara, which is the consciousness, the fuel of consciousness. And so you are what you eat, and you are what you think, and you are what you do. So every time we make a choice or we do something, um, we are adding something to this stream of consciousness and form that is us. And how we decide, like we can decide what we want to be. We can decide what this stream of consciousness will end up as. We can decide whether it will go to a bad place or to a good place, or most importantly, whether it will go to nibbana or not. And the way the way that we go there, the way that we understand the reality of nature and attain the great peace of nibbana, is by making choices along the way. And every single choice matters, because you are what you choose to do and what you choose to be. And even though sometimes we have to make difficult choices, it matters. It registers, if you may, in the stream of Chitta Santana is called, the stream of consciousness, the stream of form and consciousness. It all registers. So when we become an heir to the Dhamma, we act as if we embody the Dhamma, and in doing so, we can approach Nibbana. So every single decision we make is very important. It doesn't mean that you should always be worried and self-conscious or something. It just means you need to be aware and mindful. So if you make the wrong decision, there is no point in regretting it or feeling guilty. It is better to turn wise attention and see it for what it is. What is the root of me, of that action, of making that mistake? Did it stem from greed? Did it stem from hatred? Did it stem from delusion? And if it did so, now you see that how it can be dangerous and how we should be aware of this. And when we are aware of this, we are less likely to do it again. And we are more likely to do something more wholesome that stems from non greed, non hatred, and non delusion. So that is how we practice. That is the practice of meditation. That is the practice of satipatthana in daily life and also in formal meditation. But it's important to know that every single choice matters, and if you make a mistake, try to look at it mindfully and recollect it. And when you do something good, also to do it mindfully and know that every choice has a consequence. So anyway, that's where we left off, and so that's where the Lord Buddha lives as well. He leaves these monks that he was addressing, and then another character comes in. That is what the Blessed One said. Having said this, the Sublime One rose from his seat and went into his dwelling. Soon after he left, the Venerable Sariputta addressed the bhikkhus thus. Friends, bhikkhus, friend, they replied. The Venerable Sariputta said this. So we are introduced to Venerable Sariputta. So those of you who have been raised in a Buddhist background may know about Venerable Sariputta quite well. In Sri Lanka, he's called Salute Maharatan Mahanse. So he is the foremost disciple in wisdom. So he's called the right hand man of Buddha. Basically, he's called the Dhamma Bhandagarika. He's like the storehouse of the Dhamma. He is the wisest of his disciples. And he's actually the foremost male disciple in wisdom, and he's got a counterpart in the female sangha, the bhikkhuni called Dhammadinna Theri. And so whenever Venerable Sariputta makes a discourse, when he does a teaching discourse to the monks, the Lord Buddha would come back later and say, if I said it, I would say exactly the same. And he would say the same thing about Venerable Dhammadinna Theri as well. So the way she said, I would have said. So it's like a stamp of approval to show that whatever Venerable Sariputta says or Dhammadinna says is Buddha Vachana. It's the Buddha's teaching. It's a stamp of approval. So it holds a lot of authority, as much as authority as the Lord Buddha is saying. So that's the importance of Venerable Sariputta. He is considered still to be the wisest of his disciples, and that is really evident in the way he teaches. There are so many great discourses by him that are foundational, that are the most important aspects of our doctrine are expounded in such a clear and useful way. Friends, in what way do disciples of the teacher who lives secluded not train in seclusion? And in what way do disciples of the teacher who lives secluded train in seclusion? So I think that the translation seclusion here is for viveka. So there are three kinds of viveka. There's kaya viveka, which is bodily seclusion, and chitta viveka, which is mental seclusion, which is from the jhanas. So away from discursive thinking, away from worldly thoughts, to this oneness and of the mind. And the final one is upadi viveka, which is the clinging, really release from clinging, seclusion from clinging to things, and that's nibbana. So the first step when we want to achieve upadi viveka, which is going to nibbana, is bodily seclusion. And you could think of it as the way we meditate is we sort of take our body away from all the roughness of the world, and we turn it into a laboratory to examine reality. And the life of a bhikkhu, as stated here, is one of 24/7 seclusion in that way. Superman's fortress of solitude. Like the bhikkhu's kuti is sort of like that fortress of solitude. It's a one where we enjoy the solitary life. It's called the brahmacharya, because implying the Brahma, who's one of the deities. They live alone, so a life alone is a life well lived. As a bhikkhu, of course, it doesn't apply to lay people, because you have to have partners and friends and be involved in society. But rather for bhikkhus, it is one of stepping away and looking at things and observing things, and not getting too caught up in things and getting lost in it and doing politics and all of that. So it is quite a different life from what we are used to, but it is what is necessary for attainment of nibbana in this life. And lay people practice it in their own way through the practice of sila, and on Poya days, when people come to temples to quieten down their minds and their bodies and meditate and observe the 8 precepts and things like that. And you can really see the appeal in this. When I used to be a layman and would spend all week working. I used to work as a chef, so that's about 15 hours a day of work. And after that, we would be going out for drinks and stuff, and usually on the weekends. So I would be working or being out in the pub or something. And on Monday, when I was off, it was so nice to just sit down, just sit down at home or take a nap or read a book, just be away from everything, turn off my phone and chill out, And that's just the appeal of solitude. It's a place where you can be observe things a lot closer and be a lot closer to yourself and be a lot closer to nature, and a place where wisdom can arise. That's where we start off anyway. So that's how life is now all the time. It's pretty great. Indeed, friend, we would come from far away to learn from the Venerable Sariputta the meaning of this statement. It would be good if the Venerable Sariputta would explain the meaning of this statement. Having heard it from him, the bhikkhus will remember it. Then, friends, listen and attend closely to what I shall say. Yes, friend, the bhikkhus replied. The Venerable Sariputta said this. So you can see how much they trust Venerable Sariputta, because they come from really far away to listen to him explain something. And you see all this repetition. I was just watching this discussion between these scholars from the Samatha Trust, which is like a meditative group, meditation group in England. With this great scholar called Sarah Shaw. She was talking about how much these repetitions are really important, because Buddhism, these suttas are an oral tradition. So it was like the monks or even the lay people would be sitting down, like treating this like a meditation when the Buddha was giving the discourse. And Pali is such a beautiful rhyming sort of eloquent language. And with these repetitions, it was like the same way that we repeatedly watch our breath go in and out, and how this can calm us down and bring up wisdom. They would treat this sutta in the same way. They would take the Buddha's voice as an object, and he would take us through this journey, through this story. Like it's like an oral tradition, it's like how people used to sit around a campfire talking about things and telling stories. And that's how generations of people learned about the world and grew up. And this is the same sort of tradition. So I cannot properly convey uh, that powerful form of teaching in this way, because I'm using English, and it doesn't rhyme the same way Pali does, and we can't understand Pali or anything. So it is so it can be a bit boring sometimes to keep repeatedly reading these repetitions. Um, but we can sort of put ourselves in the place of these bhikkhus, like we mentioned a lot before, and try to think about how it would be like to listen to the Buddha speak these things. And maybe you can learn Pali yourself, and you can experience how it would really be like. um, okay, so I'll keep going with the reading then. Friends, in what way do disciples of the teacher who lives secluded not train in seclusion? Here, disciples of the teacher who lives secluded do not train in seclusion. They do not abandon what the teacher tells them to abandon. They are luxurious and careless, leaders in backsliding, neglectful of seclusion. That's a bit harsh, eh? But it's probably true. Um, so he's saying that our teacher is living in this seclusion, these three forms of seclusion that we heard before: the seclusion of the body, the mind, and the upadi. So that means basically just staying away from things, not getting too involved with society, and meditating samatha towards the jhanas, which uh, causes seclusion of the mind, and meditation, vipassana meditation, insight meditation, which gives us seclusion from clinging, because it arises wisdom. Samatha doesn't give us wisdom. So instead of doing this, they are luxurious and careless, and their leaders in backsliding and neglectful of seclusion. So he's telling off these monks for not doing your job properly, and not meditating, and being too involved and indulging in luxury. In this, the elder bhikkhus are to be blamed for three reasons. Oh, so he's blaming the elder bhikkhus, the theras, for the monks not working hard enough. As disciples of the teacher who live secluded, they do not train in seclusion. They are to be blamed for this first reason. They do not abandon what the teacher tells them to abandon. They are to be blamed for this second reason. They are luxurious and careless, leaders in backsliding, neglectful of seclusion. They are to be blamed for this third reason. The elder bhikkhus are to be blamed for these three reasons. So you can see that within the sasana, it is leading by example, so sort of like, if your subordinates are failing, it is the failure of the leader. So the leader has to take responsibility. And in our bhikkhu sangha, in the monk community, the elders are always the leaders. The youngers have to be under their thumb, but we are always very independent. There is a huge aspect of independence within the sangha. We are free to go anywhere we like, choose where we associate with, who we associate with. But the younger monks follow the example of the elders. And so Venerable Sariputta is saying here, if the elders are not committed to the path, and they are not practicing properly, what do you expect of the youngers? And this is a very important thing for us to remember. that we need to take personal responsibility all the time. It doesn't mean that me as a younger monk can just blame the elders if I make a mistake or do something wrong. I made that choice, so I need to take personal responsibility. But within the, as a teacher should be very careful and be a very good example for their students. In this, the middle bhikkhus are to be blamed for three reasons. As disciples of the teacher who lives secluded, they do not train in seclusion. They are to be blamed for the first reason. They do not abandon what the teacher tells them to abandon. They are to be blamed for the second reason. They are luxurious and careless, leaders in backsliding, neglectful of seclusion. They are to be blamed for this third reason. The middle bhikkhus are to be blamed for these three reasons. In this, the new bhikkhus are to be blamed for three reasons. As disciples of the teacher who live secluded, they do not train in seclusion. They are to be blamed for this first reason. They do not abandon what the teacher tells them to abandon. They are to be blamed for the second reason. They are luxurious and careless, leaders in backsliding, neglectful of seclusion. They are to be blamed for this third reason. The new bhikkhus are to be blamed for these three reasons. So he's blaming both the elders, the Theras, the middle bhikkhus, which are Majjimas, who are monks who have been ordained for more than 5 years, are called Majjimas, middle bhikkhus. And the new bhikkhus they are referring to are called the Navakas, so monks like me, who are not 5 years old yet. So we are like baby monks. We are still learning the trade, stumbling around. So each one, he's saying, yes, the elders are to blame. So are the Majjimas, and so are the new monks. You all have to take personal responsibility for your actions, and it is important for us to follow the teacher and do what needs to be done. And there are no excuses for failure. Yeah, it's quite a disciplinarian, a harsh outlook on the life, but it leads to a great reward. And also living a life of seclusion is very rewarding. It's a wonderful life, to not get involved in politics, and to not be involved in all these conflicts and all these terrible things that happen in the world, these wars, these exploitation, crime, such things, and to live a life that is pure, and through meditation to for our mind to be secluded from these things, through because there is a great comfort in this in our practice. And it requires self-sacrifice and personal responsibility. However, the rewards far outweigh the work we need to put in, so it is a good investment. It is in this way that disciples of the teacher who lives secluded do not train in seclusion. In what way, friends, do disciples of the teacher who live secluded train in seclusion? Here, disciples of the teacher who live secluded train in seclusion. They abandon what the teacher tells them to abandon. They are not luxurious and careless. They are keen to avoid backsliding and are leaders in seclusion. See, so don't be luxurious, don't be careless, and be keen to avoid backsliding, and are leaders in seclusion. So be a leader in seclusion. That's the advice. In this, the elder bhikkhus are to be commended for three reasons. As disciples of the teacher who live secluded, they train in seclusion. They are to be commended for the first reason. They abandon what the teacher tells them to abandon. They are to be commended for this second reason. They are not luxurious and careless. They are keen to avoid backsliding and are leaders in seclusion. They are to be commended for this third reason. The elder bhikkhus are to be commended for these three reasons. In this, The middle bhikkhus are to be commended for three reasons. As disciples of the teacher who lives secluded, they train in seclusion. They are to be commended for this first reason. They abandon what the teacher tells them to abandon. They are to be commended for this second reason. They are not luxurious and careless. They are keen to avoid backsliding and are leaders in seclusion. They are to be commended for this third reason. The middle bhikkhus are to be commended for these three reasons. In this, the new bhikkhus are to be commended for three reasons. As disciples of the teacher who live secluded, they train in seclusion. They are to be commended for this first reason. They abandon what the teacher tells them to abandon. They are to be commended for the second reason. They are not luxurious and careless. They are keen to avoid backsliding and are leaders in seclusion. They are to be commended for the third reason. The new bhikkhus are to be commended for these three reasons. It is in this way that disciples of the teacher who lives secluded train in seclusion. Okay, so they are saying now what needs to be commended. It is what is to be commended are those individuals that do train, that do practice. That's all the time for the reading that we have today, and we are nearly towards the end. So this is quite an important sutta from the ethical perspective. Like this is mostly addressed to monks, but like we mentioned before, it doesn't have to only address to monks, and lay people too can use these lessons. So lay people may not be capable of the sort of the harsh disciplinarian sort of lifestyle that monks are recommended to have, because it takes a lot of training and the paramis, so the perfections. I think you heard of the paramis. So there is one called nekkamma, which is the renunciation parami. It needs to be quite full to be a monk, and you need to sort of have the habitual patterns that have been formed over many lifetimes, and even in this lifetime, in order to be able to enjoy this kind of life. To find the peace and the tranquility in a life of contentment, in a life of restraint and discipline. So not every lay person is that lucky. Well, I believe you need to be lucky to have that, but you can train yourselves. So for example, when it comes to seclusion, there is a lot of office politics. You may choose not to get involved in this stuff. You may choose to do the right thing and not be involved in backbiting and trying to destroy a colleague's life, or just to get a promotion or something like that. It's a subtle example. Or when we are reading the news, and the news is designed to get you angry to resign. It's really designed to get you worked up, to vote for something that may not be in your best interests, and also watching TV adverts, which is designed to make you greedy and to spend money. So we are all commodities in this world, and we only matter to the powers that be as as a number, as a number on a spreadsheet, on a graph. How much money do we make for the system? How much violence are we prepared to commit for the system? So when it comes to being a Buddhist and being secluded from these things, you can choose how you act as a layman. Are you going to live a life of promoting violence, of overconsumption, of environmental destruction, of animal cruelty, of cruelty towards your fellow human being? Or do you choose to be a true Buddhist, a person who is full of love and compassion, who does not get involved in violence, who does not promote violence, who does not revel in violence, who does not always promote discord, promote division, promote bigotry and racism and homophobia and sexism and misogyny and these things. And you can form your own seclusion in this way. When you seclude yourself from these terrible things in the world, and you can see the true nature of things, that all these things are impermanent, that all these things are not self, that all these things are delusion. And with this direct confrontation with reality, you can find your way towards nibbana. So that's the message for today from the Dhammadāyāda Sutta, and it is a wonderful sutta that I hope that you all go back to and reflect on, even if the lessons from it may be a hard pill to swallow. They are an important pill to swallow, because it is one that will take you towards liberation. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you all enjoy this lovely evening and also practice of the Dhamma. Sadhu Anumodami.